Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Lessons Learned, the dumbest thing I've ever done with money. My name is Suzanne, and I am the head coach at G.R.A.C.E Financial Coaching. And I am so excited to welcome my colleague, Mayra Sanchez, this morning. Mayra is a life coach, and her goal is to help her clients reimagine their lives. Mayra has extensive knowledge, resources, and community, and she shares proven holistic frameworks, practical tools, which you guys know I love stuff that we can actually use, and her knowledge, which helps accelerate transformation in the most important areas of her client's life. Mayra keeps her clients inspired and moving efficiently towards their specific goals while building greater mental, spiritual, and emotional resiliency. Good morning, Mayra. How are you?
Good morning, Suzanne. I'm excited to be here. Thank you so much for this
Yes. All right.
opportunity.
So tell us about your coaching practice and what makes you different than the average life or financial coach.
Well, I think what makes me different is uh, the vast knowledge and personal experience I've had getting through my own crisis in life. I'm a holistic life coach because I dealt with all different areas of my life being broken, and I had to go through the process of identifying what was broken, where it was broken, and actually heal those areas and mend those areas. And
Oh,
that's what
that's
I
really
do
interesting.
for my clients. I basically go deep into the root causes of the pain points that they're experiencing every day.
Yeah. When you speak to someone who eventually becomes a client, what are they saying initially? They're probably not saying, "Hi, Coach Myra, I need a holistic approach." They don't even know that yet. What are they coming
Exactly.
to you with initially?
Well, they're coming to me for either living paycheck to paycheck and being tired of that, and knowing that they make a good amount of money but not having enough money to make their bills. So
Hmm.
they either come for that, or they come because they see themselves living a healthy lifestyle, but they don't know how to actually do it. What things that they can do that are simple enough for them to manage. I really focus very strongly with martial arts philosophy and abilities, and that's where I get the holistic approach, because it's a very mind, body, spirit system. So the
What
idea,
makes the Yeah, what makes the martial arts philosophy different than a Western type of coaching philosophy?
I'm glad you asked that. The Eastern philosophy allows us to participate in our own progress, in our own system of healing. And that's one of the things that I love so much. For me, the first reason I ended up moving into martial arts or discovering martial arts was because I had a illness that Western medicine just couldn't deal with. It didn't, I was in my 20s. I was very, very distraught, really struggling every day physically. And Western medicine said, there's no pill for this. There's nothing we can do. And so I started looking into researching alternative ways of managing health. And I found martial arts as one of those systems. I connected to the system that is specifically for health, because there are a lots of different systems to follow. And that's where I really discovered how to care for myself properly and accurately based on who I was uniquely. There's no size fits all in terms of diet, in terms of supplements, in terms of lifestyle. There's nothing that fits everyone exactly. So there has to be some exploring, and we have
Yeah.
to allow ourselves to do that. And that's what I got a chance to do, to really explore my life from a different angle, and started to realize that because of my lifestyle being so busy, and because I was such a strong caregiver. I mean, I was a single mom, and I was the daughter of someone who needed support, and I was that go-to in my family. So my lifestyle just didn't leave me a whole lot of time for self-care, and I didn't understand that I could take 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes for self care every day, throughout the day, and be able to to support myself properly, as opposed to going to the gym 3 times a week for an hour.
Oh, interesting.
So I learned those simple things that I can do, and I started to do them, and then experienced that there was a complete transformation in terms of my energy, my function, my ability to think, and my ability to do more with the time that I had without the cost of my own health. And
Yeah,
from
you
there,
were the true definition of burning the candle at both ends at that point.
100%. You know what?
Yeah.
If I could find 3 ends to burn, I burned it. I was, in essence, I like to talk about the financial piece of it because it's so much easier to see it that way. It's like,
Mm.
it's like knowing you need to save money and you want a future, but then you like spend every cent you have, and you spend all the credit that you have on a credit card, and then you just like basically always borrowing from your future to take care of the present. And you can only
Yeah.
do
The
that for so
difference is
long.
the difference is with money, in theory, we could always make more money or correct the money issues, but once you lose your health, oh, it's kind of hard to get some of that back sometimes, depending on the circumstances.
100%. And the thing is that what I really like to focus on is the fact that we can live a joyful and meaningful and wonderfully enriching life, even if we don't have, even if we have a sickness, right? Like, it's possible we can do that. But we have to believe that it's possible to do that, and not look at a sickness as a death sentence. And that's a real key root foundation thinking. And that's what I had to learn. Like, my diagnosis never went away,
Mm,
and but the symptoms that I was experiencing every day did. So it doesn't matter
interesting.
if you have a diagnosis; it matters how you live your life so that it's meaningful with whatever you have. It's in faith terms, right? It's like contentment. Don't chase happiness. Learn to be content,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Good morning, Laura. How are you? Laura says 3 wick candles are real. We burn them in multiple different directions, right? It totally feels that way. And we are recording this during the holiday season, so it is even more appropriate now to have that discussion.
Yes. And I think that we as women are trained to do that because we have
Hmm.
the capacity to multitask. We multitask to burnout,
Yeah.
right? And I
Yes.
mean,
Oh
it's
my
like something
gosh.
that's a gift that we have. We abuse it or allow ourselves to abuse it. And then it just leads us to all these problems that could be avoided if we recognize that it's a good gift. It's just not meant to be implemented every single day of your life. Like, it's not
And every
a part of
single
your
and
identity.
every single second of
Exactly.
our lives. Yeah,
Exactly.
that's where I think the culture of um bragging about how busy you are. I have the friends that I go to and I say, "Oh my gosh, this week has been crazy, the week from hell, blah blah blah." But when certain people are posting it on social media for 2,000 of their friends to see how busy they are, that's a whole other level. It's one thing to vent to a dear friend. It's another thing to be bragging about how busy you are. And unfortunately, we've kind of made that a stamp of approval in our society today.
That's right. That's right. And for me, I realized that there's a real difference between being busy and being productive. But I had to grow
Definitely.
into that and mature into that understanding. When in my 20s, I had no idea. In my 20s, I was just trying to make everybody happy and make sure my family was good and made sure that my professional life was taken care of, and make sure that I was cooking every meal. And if I took shortcuts, that meant there was something wrong with me. I was just so susceptible to what everybody else thought and said, and it was more important than what I thought and said.
Yeah. Oh, it's wonderful that you have taken all of these lessons and now you are helping other people figure it out, in less time than it took you.
Yes, that's right. Because it took me like 30 years to get here.
Right, exactly. That's what people want from a coach though. So, So Mayra, initially I started this show to help people realize we all make financial mistakes, but we can learn from the experience of others so that we don't have to make those mistakes later on. So what would you say, Mayra, is the dumbest thing you've ever done with money?
The dumbest thing that I've ever done, I thought about this question because I had a few to choose from, right? Like I've done some dumb things. But the most important dumb thing that I ever did that really had ripple effects throughout time was be observing someone doing something that I didn't agree with and saying nothing about it. That was, I just recently got married, and my first marriage was in my 20s. And in that first marriage, I made this crucial mistake, which was that I had the concept and the belief that I should never question my husband, that he was the one that knew the right things to do. And I was in that insecure state. So I watched him make some really bad decisions for our family in finances. Decisions like lending out money to family members when we didn't have money to lend, things like that, because that was part of how he saw himself, and he wanted to be supportive, and he didn't count the cost of how that was going to impact us. And I let it happen. I felt like it was wrong, but I never said anything about it. I just kind of went along. And that created a pattern in my marriage that over time led to a lot of debt, no assets, and just an incredible amount of worry and stress. In those days, the debt collectors would call you, and you'd have answering machines. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah.
I'm reading myself. So I had those answering machines, and I was so petrified. Okay, I was so anxious and overwhelmed with the debt and the debt collectors that when they would call, I would hide myself in a closet. And I felt like if I were in the closet, they couldn't see me, they couldn't know, they couldn't touch me. It was a very poor way of coping with the amount of stress and what was going on. But at the time, I was less mature, less capable, less aware, and I didn't have anyone to turn to. So I just hid in the closet. I just avoided it. I ignored it. I just tried to distance myself from it. And
the physical reaction you had to removing yourself from hearing the problem is really interesting, because what was going to be achieved by you going into the closet? Absolutely nothing. They were on the phone. They weren't knocking at the door, but for some reason, your body, your brain went into this flight and hide mode. And I think that it is a real life, actual euphemism for what we do with our finances. Sometimes we hide from the problem. The problem is I'm not blaming you, obviously, but you were the problem, and you were in the closet with yourself.
Yeah. Well, it's all about reaction, right? It's like, it's not response, it's reaction. I was reacting to everything that was going on around me at every moment of the day. And in order for me to really make progress, I had to actually acknowledge that I was reacting from that survival mode and not really responding from a space of like, okay, I'm using my entire brain properly to help me understand what's an actual threat from what seems like a threat, what feels threatening, so to speak. And,
Yes.
and that's
We had a
definitely
guest.
something that,
Yeah, we had a guest, I would say maybe about a year ago now, a male, and it was the opposite. The roles were reversed, where he was out making, the breadwinner of the house, and the wife was home and she was taking care of the finances. And it turns out she wasn't taking care of the finances. So I don't necessarily think this is a specific gender identity. I think it's based inside the relationship. So
yeah.
what did you attempt to make changes? What happened next?
So what I ended up doing was divorcing my husband. I never learned to communicate
Okay.
at that stage of life. And as I shared, I recently got remarried, and it took me almost 10 years to
Wow.
actually walk down that aisle again. And it was because I was working out all these issues. Like everything that I learned from what went wrong and made me break my family apart, I had to reflect and really make an effort to proactively talk about all these uncomfortable things and all these uncomfortable concerns and these things that I think, oh, you're not supposed to ask, about this, or you're not supposed to ask. I mean, I had to really work against what felt natural to me, which was more romantic, right? And I go, oh my gosh, we love each other. Let's just get married. Once you've been through a divorce, that second time, it's hard to get back on that horse when you know what can happen, right? When you know what you can live through.
Yeah.
And because it took me so long to dig myself out of the financial pit that I supported and contributed to creating for myself, I'm super unwilling to contribute to that again. And
Yeah. The
and that was
verbiage that you use, though, the verbiage that you're using to describe yourself at that stage, though, you're not using any victim language. You're saying, I contributed to this because I didn't know how to communicate and I didn't learn how to communicate. And so the ownership of that, I think, is just a huge step in personal growth, whatever the issue is, right? Whatever we've been contributing to, whatever we've been allowing to happen, whether it's to us or to other people, and we've been enabling. But the ability to sit here and say, I enabled that and I'm not going to do it anymore is really life altering.
Yeah, I agree. And that's the thing that I talk about in my holistic approach, right? How we do one thing is often how we do everything. It's just that it's a little sneakier in other places. We might not necessarily see it, capture it. And so we tend to have problems in multiple areas, but it's the area that we are bothered by first that usually encourages that call to a coach. Right? It's like
That
it may
is
not be the
so
fundamental thing, but it may be
right.
the thing that just hurts enough that we're willing to reach out.
It's so necessary to say out loud, and it's horrifying at the same time. How we do one thing is probably how we're doing everything. Man, that can be really that'll throw somebody right back in the all right, I'm going into the closet. I don't need to hear this.
Yeah.
But how do
Yeah.
you work with clients like that who this I mean, and you've been coaching long enough and I've been coaching long enough. We get into these consultations and we can sometimes see the root of the problem immediately. But what good are we going to do our clients if we just say, here's the root of your problem? That'll be $300 and then that's it. You leave them on their own. They may not even admit that that's the root of their problem. So how do you dig into that and show them without being abrasive and without being without scaring them half to death?
Well, I share the experiences that I've had. I use a lot of visual cues. I actually have a visual cue right here that I can show you that I use for myself all the time. And I love to use it because it's literally like Christmas and Christmas Carol, and I hear those chains all the time. And
Yes.
I created this of all the credit cards and all the things that I was funding at that stage of my life and that we were funding. And it helps remind me, like, this is why I do what I do, to support people and not going that deep into the ditch. And also really like putting a visual understanding around it, like it is a chain, it is a burden, it is the reason we can't experience freedom. And that, in a multiple areas, right? And so, yes, I'm very candid. Yes, I tell my story. And yes, I think it's very important for people to be willing to find the courage to face their own truth.
Oh, so true. Our
Yeah.
colleague, Kristen Tucker is joining us on LinkedIn. Good morning, Kristen. And she says she is stealing that how we do one thing, maybe how we do everything. That is a really so powerful. That visual aid is so unbelievably powerful. I can't believe you kept all of those cards. I would have thrown them in a fireplace.
Listen, I did it because I had to wean myself away from the habit, because this shopping therapy, which is so acceptable in our society,
Oh,
is incredibly powerful. Like, it's more powerful and loud than the voices in our own head sometimes. So we have to really take ownership of that and understand like where our um, weaknesses are.
it's
Right?
so
Like,
true.
I recognize that for myself. As soon as,
I deserve this. I deserve to go out to dinner. I deserve to go on a shopping
yeah,
spree. I deserve new boots when the ones on your feet from last season are just fine. It really is. It's pervasive. I have caught myself doing it. Full disclosure, I am a spender. What I have learned about myself is if I feel that coming on, I go to a thrift store. And if I can just go in, get myself a $1 book and a couple of $3 shirts, I can keep it within my fun money category while still filling that. I hesitate to call it filling a hole, but for some people it really is. It's a hole in
yeah,
their lives and they're trying to fill it with stuff. And I'm sure you've come across that with people.
yeah, I come across it with people, and I come across it with myself, because I learned as a young child that when I was, you know, when I get overwhelmed, there's no future. Like, I have that idea, there's no future. So what's the point of saving, or what's the point of investing? It's like, I witnessed death at 16 years old in my life, and so that experience made me filter life through the lens of death. And so I often am struggling with that experience of like, I'm not even going to survive this long. So what does it matter if I buy my new boots? It's that. It's also the I deserve it. I deserve it because I'm such a good person. I'm giving everything to everyone. What about me?
Yeah.
And we have to face those feelings. We have to face those feelings and realize that that's part of how we sabotage ourselves and how we actually harm ourselves. But it's like we harm ourselves in a way that's so like low key that it's almost imperceptible. And
Yeah.
so this visual representation and this opportunity is for me, because I don't like to hear what other people have to say. I'm a little bit rebellious that way. I have to make sure that the adult me talks to the little girl me and says, "Hey, not today, sweetheart." And I can
Chris,
take my own parenting much better than I can take the advice of others.
yes, absolutely. Kristen makes an excellent point, though. White boots are so hot this year. How are we going to survive without them? No, I'm kidding.
I'm with you,
I
Kristen.
forget it. I beat the crap out of my boots. If you gave me a pair of white boots, those things would be gray by the end of the day.
Listen, I love boots, and I don't care about spending money on boots. I do care though that I fund the money, like that I just
Yes.
that it's my fund, and if that's the way I'm gonna have fun, that's totally fine. It's just that it's like it's different when it's boots today, a chocolate tomorrow, a theater tickets the next day, and all that cumulative effect. That's what
Yeah.
more when I'm in the closet and I'm noticing the expenses as they go out, then that's when I find myself at the end of the month going, "Oh no, what did I do?" Thankfully, I
Usually,
don't do that as much as I used to.
right. And usually it's more like with a week left in the month that you're like, oh boy. So
Exactly.
Mayra, if you could go back in time, what would you change? What would you change about the enabling that you found yourself contributing to?
Well, that's the change I made. I mean, I really speak to my husband. Like I said, we're just newly married, but I don't let myself go to bed with something unexpressed. I don't let myself leave a coaching call without telling a person what I really see, what I really believe. They can digest it. They can not want to have me in their life again. That's okay. But it's like not okay for me to squash my voice and stop doing what I was designed to do. I am a candid person, and I'm a very caring person, right? And I'm not so consumed with being nice that I forget the kindness of honesty. I
That's
mean,
amazing. Yeah. The
it just really
combination,
supports both.
the combination of the candidness and the caring is exactly what people need in a coach, no matter what type of coach it is. So
Right.
that is awesome, Mayra. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you for your honesty. Thank you for your wisdom. I wrote down way more than I had anticipated.
All right. All right.
So
That's my legacy, to spread out the wisdom as much as I can.
exactly. Right. Right. Exactly. Well, all of Myra's contact information is in the show notes below. So if you guys need to reach out to her, please do so. And Mayra, I hope you and your family and your husband have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Thank you so much, Suzanne. Thank you so much for this opportunity. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing you on the road.
Yes, definitely. All right, everybody. If you joined us late today, make sure you get the replay on the YouTube channel. And we will see everyone in 2023.
2023, yay!
Bye, guys.